How's it going, everybody? This is Mr. Bennett speaking. I know there were quite a few of y'all that were struggling with some of the 45, 45, 90s and 30, 60, 90 right triangles. And I know some of the videos may not have still been enough to kind of help you get started. So I just wanted to go through and review the notes with you guys as quickly as possible, and just try to touch up on some things that can help you in terms of getting it set up, and as well as simplifying or rationalizing if you have a square root in the denominator. So just a quick review. We have 45, 45, 90s, right? That's where those are angles. And then we have the 30, 60, 90s too. Try to fit all this on one page for you guys to see. So if you remember back a couple months ago, we only had one equation for the 45, 45, 90s, which was nice. And that was, we said that the hypotenuse is the square root of 2 times more than one of the two legs. And if you remember, the legs are the same here, right? Because they're both across from 45-degree angles, so that means that the two legs must be the same length, right? But the 30, 60, 90s are going to have two, because we have one for the 60s as well as the 90s. So we know the angle, the side across from the 90 degrees, the right angle, or the hypotenuse, excuse me. So we know that the here in this case, the hypotenuse is going to be twice the size of the shorter leg, right? Because you have the shorter and a longer leg. And remember, your shorter leg is going to be the one opposite of the 30-degree angle, right? And then the second equation that goes with this comes from the 60, so this is going to be the longer leg, right? That's the one across from the 60. So the longer leg, sorry, my handwriting's not so good, especially with the marker. The longer leg is not twice the length of the shorter leg, it's root 3 times the length of the shorter leg. Which is tempting to say that's more. Why is that more than 2 if that's supposed to be the longest leg? Remember 2 is actually bigger than root 4. Excuse me, 2 is bigger than root 3. So root 3 is actually not bigger than 2. Not that that's like what's important here. But let's take a look at a couple of examples. Give me a second. Let me pull up a couple of triangles I found online, and we'll try to work with those. So let's look at one example here. We have, and again, you can always feel free to stop this video or rewind it, whatever you need to do. Let's just say that we'll call that Y and X, and then we'll say these are two 45-degree angles. So let's just find X in this one. Well, we could find the other one, but we know if 20 is across from the 45 and Y is across from the 45, they have to be the same. So if this leg's 20, well, that leg's got to be 20 as well. So there's really not a whole lot of work to be done for that one. But for X, remember, X is your hypotenuse. It's across from the 90-degree angle. And if you go back to the equation, the hypotenuse is root 2 times the leg. Well, what's your leg? Well, it's 20. So just take 20 for your shorter leg, or your leg, and plug it in here. So the hypotenuse, which is X, is root 2, just because of the ratio, times bigger than, again, one of the legs. Either one of the legs is 20. And so when you simplify that, and again, I hope y'all can see this in the video, you get 20 root 2, and that's it. That's one example when you don't know the hypotenuse. But let's look at one where you have the hypotenuse, but you don't know, excuse me, one of the two legs. It's a pretty good one. Let's try this one. So that's example 1. We'll look at example 2. Sorry, I need to mark those off. Okay, so draw another right triangle. Okay, sorry, my phone is on low power mode, so it's wanting to close on me without me being done. How rude. 14 root 3. We'll say this time we know the hypotenuse, but we don't know either one of the two legs. But again, x and y are both across from 45 degrees, so they're going to be the same. So if we know y, we know x, or if we know x, we know y. So it doesn't really matter which one we solve for. Let's just solve for x. Why not? So remember, use that same formula as before. The hypotenuse is root 2 times bigger than the leg. Well, we had to plug x in for the leg here because it was the leg, right? I'm sorry. We had to plug in 20 here for the leg. So instead of actually plugging in a number here, since we're looking for the leg, we're just going to plug it in there because in the first one, we knew the leg that we used to find the hypotenuse. But in the second one, we know the hypotenuse that we're going to plug in here to find the leg. It's just backwards. If you know one, plug it in to find the other. Okay, there's only one of two options really. So the hypotenuse is 14 root 3, and we know it is, again, root 2 times the length of one of the two legs, which again, it doesn't matter which one, x or y. They're both the same because they're both across from 45s. But we need to move the root 2 over here. This is what I think is what's getting some of y'all with these problems. It's multiplication. We divide to undo it. So it's tempting to say, okay, well, x is just 14 root 3 over 2. But that is true, but we need to rationalize that. In other words, we need to get that radical out from the bottom, and the quickest way to do that is to multiply the top, multiply by a fraction where the top and the bottom are both that radical, that square root. So if it's square root of 2, multiply this fraction by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, right? Or if it's the square root of 3 down here, multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 3. Whatever that number is there, multiply by the top and bottom of that same number. Not just the number at the bottom, the square root of that number, right? The whole thing. So this is actually going to rationalize it. So once we fix this up, sorry, my nose ditched. Once we fix this up, we can multiply straight across and get our answer. So 14 times, well, there's no constant out here, so we're just going to put it there, or coefficient. But root 3 times root 2 is actually just root 6, right? You just multiply the numbers under the radical, or house, and just keep it under the house. But on the bottom, notice root 2 times root 2, if you put that in your calculator, you actually get 2, right? The root of some number times the root of that same number will always just give you that number. But we still can't leave it like that. 14 over 2 can be reduced. 14 divided by 2 is 7, right? And now the 2 in the bottom is gone, right? 14 divided by 2 is 7. And then you just have the root 6 from the top that goes right there. So that is your answer. That is as hard as they get. If you can set it up using the equation from the top, and really you're doing 3 steps after you set it up. You divided, you multiply the top and bottom by the radical, and then you just reduced your fraction. So at most you'll have 3 things you have to do. Okay, so those are 45, 45, 90. So I hope that helps. Let's look at a couple of examples of 30, 60, because usually you can do one or both of the legs in one problem. So maybe we'll look at it. We'll look at least 2, maybe 3. So let me at least get one to start us off. Okay, so we'll just call this. We'll just keep going. We'll just call this example 1 for this one. So we have another right triangle. We'll say that's the 60. It's the 30. A, B, 6. Root 3. Okay, that's supposed to be a 6. It's not a very good one. It looks like B. There we go. Again, I'm not the best writer, especially when it comes to markers. So we have A, B, 6 root 3, 60, 30. Excuse me. So what we need to do here now is we need to find A and B. Why don't we just find both of them? Because you might have a problem like this where it asks you to find the hypotenuse or the leg. So why don't we can just make this into 2 problems. So you're looking for either one of these 2. Remember, the rule here is, and we talked about this a couple of months ago, you need to always find the shorter leg first if it's not given. Because remember, a shorter leg can be plugged in here to find the longer leg, or can be plugged up here into this equation to find the hypotenuse. So if you know the shorter leg, you can plug it into one or both of these equations and get the hypotenuse of the longer leg. So the shorter leg is like your golden side. connects these two, right? It's sort of the bridge with these ratios, okay? So we'll come back up here. Why don't we look, well, we need to look for the shorter leg. How do we know it's the shorter leg? Well, it's across from the 30. This is your longer leg, it's across from the 60. So you know the longer, you're using it to find the shorter. So which one should we use? Sorry, that's not a very good attempt at Jeopardy music, but just go with it. We want to use the second one, right? We know the longer leg, we need to find the shorter leg so that we can go back and plug it in until you find the hypotenuse. So we need to use this one. So the longer leg, 6 root 3, is root 3, again, that's just going back up here, root 3 times the shorter leg, which, again, we don't know what it is, so just b. Okay? Just like down here, we need to solve for the variable. It's been multiplied, so how are you going to do that? Well, you divide. Divide that root 3 over here, but you have to do it on both sides. This should be pretty easy. Those are going to cancel, those are going to cancel, and you're just left with 6. That's really nice. That's a nice, easy answer. Well, you have the shorter leg. If you're asked to find the hypotenuse, now that you know the shorter leg, go back up to the first equation. The shorter leg, well, what is it? Well, it's 6. We just found it. So take 6 and double it, and you have the hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is twice the length of the shorter leg, which is 6. Well, what's twice 6, or 6 twice? Well, 12. So the hypotenuse, in this case, it's A. It's across from the 90-degree angle, is twice the length of the shorter leg that you just found, and that's going to give you 12. Sorry, I'm just blowing it to make sure it's dry, and that we're probably going to use the back side for a couple more problems. Let me just pull up. We'll look at least one more. This video's gotten a little longer. I tried to keep it short and concise. Why don't we do one where we know the hypotenuse, if I can find one like that, actually. Yeah, here we go. All right, we'll do at least one more example, and I can always try to do more. Oh, that bled through. Well, maybe we can try it down here. Let's see if we can fit it down here. Example 2 for this part. Okay, so we have a triangle. That is right. That's going to be your 30-degree angle. That means that's going to be your 60-degree angle. The hypotenuse is 4 root 3. And then just label that side N and that side M. So again, we still need to find the shorter side. It is across from the 30. In this case, that would be N. So we know the hypotenuse. We're looking for the shorter side. So go back and use the first one. We know the hypotenuse. We're using it to find the shorter side. First one. We're not looking at the longer leg first. So the hypotenuse is twice the length of the shorter side, N. Well, divide by 2. Well, what's 4 divided by 2? 2. And you're just left with the root 3 on the top there, and you have N. Well, that's great, wonderful. What do I do to get the longer leg? Well, again, the whole point was to find the shorter leg. Now use it by plugging it in here, multiplying it by root 3, and guess what? Ta-da, you have the longer leg, which in this case would be M. So the longer leg, M, is root 3 times the shorter leg, which is 2 root 3. So root 3 times 2 root 3. Sorry, I'm having to fit this in here. So the way, again, let your calculator do all the work for you. Root 3 times root 3 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6. So there is your shorter leg, and there's your longer leg, M. That is supposed to be an M. It's not a very good one. That should cover every single possible type of answer. Again, when you rationalize it, just like down here, you've got to multiply it by a fraction where the top and bottom is that number. Just don't worry about what's going on up here. Just focus on what's going on down here. Whatever this value is, multiply it by the same thing, and it's guaranteed to cancel. That's why we do that. There's a rule for that, so we use that to our advantage. If you have any questions, please shoot me a message, and I will try to help as much as I can, but this should clear up everything for this week. If you're still having problems after this, let me know, and give me if you can take a picture of the problem and send it to me. I'll be glad to work it out, and hopefully this is going to help you guys to reach that mark of 10. So please keep trying. I am keeping note of those who are really trying, and we'll worst case scenario, we're going to work something out. So don't give up. You guys are doing great. Thank you.